Okay, this is going to be my video for Active Directory. Um, so I unfortunately did not take pictures of the process for deleting the existing domain, the TechTax domain. But for that, let me just from current slide. For that, I under manage there was under manage. I don't know, somewhere there was you could remove roles. Um, and I had to remove the domain controller role from the server. Um, you can only have one domain per domain controller, and the only domain controller available was the server, and that was set to TechTax. Had to get rid of TechTax. And that's what brings me here. As you can see, we have no TechTax. We have the computer name, which is TechTax, but no domain. Um, so when you restart it after removing the domain controller, right up here, you have this flag with this little exclamation point. And when I clicked on that, it let me know that I didn't have a domain set up. So when I clicked on that, it gave me the option to set up a domain. So I clicked that, and that brought me to this Active Directory Domain Services Configuration Wizard. And this just kind of walks you through the setup process. First, since I had no domain at all, I needed to create a new forest. So I needed a root domain. That domain name I decided to make theavengers.org because thought it'd be fun to make users named for each of the members of the Avenger, and they seem like a .org. I mean, they're an organization, not a company. Um, not always government sanctioned, so I didn't want to go .gov. So yeah, and then I clicked next, which brought me here. The domain controller options. I wanted the forest and domain to function, Windows Server 2012 R2. That's what we've been using. Domain controller capabilities. We needed it DNS, and we got global catalog. And as far as password, I just went with the password I had been using for the Windows Server, which I believe was Dunks for Life, because that was the morning that I got free Dunkin' Donuts. Next is DNS options. Didn't really need to do anything special. Gave me this warning up here, but I was able to, you can pretty much mostly ignore that. Hit next. Additional options. Again, for the most part, just hit next. And they pretty much, for me, the default settings were fine. So again, next. And I just, was able to review everything. Nothing was out of place, so I hit next again. And, it prerequisite checks, but as you can see, all these are yellow. And as we know, yellows are warnings, not necessarily stops. And nothing was actually something that would prevent me. They were just kind of warnings which didn't really apply. So I was able to come down here and hit install. And then that, it took a little while, but it eventually, installed. It created the domain and assigned the server as a domain controller for theavengers.org. You can see all the settings here. So this was my new, server manager page. Then I decided I was going to, create my users. So, actually, how do I get to the Active Directory domain and trusts? Well, for that, I think I went Tools, and you could go to, it was like something, I might have specifically said Users or Domain Management, something along those lines. Yeah, and then you hear, well, I think it might have actually been called Active Directory Domains and Trust. So I click that, brings me here, and you can see my domain listed. After that, I think I right-clicked right here where it says Avengers.org. I think it gave me the option to manage the domain, so I clicked on that, which brings me here, users and computers. And then, so we have different folders for the different parts of our domains. First, I was going to add some users, so I was mostly interested in this folder right down here for users. As you can see, I had already added some at this point because Bruce Banner is not a standard user. So I right-clicked on users and you clicked new user, which brought me here, the new user window. And then, I filled it out. First name Thor, last name Odinson, full name. That gets filled in automatically when you put those in. User logon is thundergod at avengers.org. Hit next, and then it just asks you to put in the password. Do not. I don't remember exactly what I put the password for him. Probably had something to do with Loki or I don't know, thunder better than lightning. I don't know, something like that. But I do have user must change password at next login. So when Thor logs in, he will select one that he think fits him. And then the next part. So I had the new user created. We also had to create new objects. We had to create computers on our domain. So to do that on that previous screen, not here, back here, all you would do is right-click on the computers folder and hit new computer. So it brings up this window, and then I just filled it in with computer name Friday. That is the new AI that replaced Jarvis in the movies. You can see I had already created a computer named Jarvis. And yep, that was for new computers. So yeah, after creating the new users and computers, I had to do some group policy management. Again, you could get to group policy management on that initial server manager. You go tools, and group policy management is one of the tools. And this brings up here, you see we have our domain, the Avengers. And yep, you can expand it. And when you expand it, one of the things is just default domain. So if you right click on default domain, you can hit manage, which will bring up the group policy management editor. This is where you can actually create, update, assign group policies. So to demonstrate that, I opened up, user configuration, preferences, Windows settings, and then under here, there's, many different things you can, create and assign. This is the folders where you would, if you wanted, say a specific user or all users in a group to always have access to a certain folder, that's where you would create it. If you right-click in there, there's an option to create new folder. This is basically what it would look like. I decided I wasn't a big fan on the idea of a new folder, so I wanted to go simple. I just created a new shortcut in the, come back here, over here you got shortcuts, also an option. So yeah, I just wanted a shortcut to be on the desktop that was just a link to the techfoundry.org. So name, the Tech Foundry, that's going to be the name of the shortcut. It's a URL on the desktop. You got the target URL. An action update means that when a user logs in, it will either update the shortcut to the most current version we want them to have, and if it's not already created, it will create it for them. If it's already created and up to date, it will do nothing. So here we go. This is after I hit OK, and you can see that it's created here. And right now this is the desktop, and there's no shortcut. So what I had to actually do is open up the command prompt, and I had to there's usually set times when Active Directory will update the group policies for all the users. But I didn't feel like sitting around. I didn't know when that was, sometime in maybe that week, maybe we'll set to next month. So instead, you can just go to command prompt and type in gpupdate.exe/force. this will force it to run GP update and update the group policies. And you can see after that, it took into effect and created the Tech Foundry shortcut on the desktop. So let's see. Next, after I talked to Mike a little bit, and he told me about RSOP, or the Resultant Set of Policies. This, when it works correctly, will show you all, when you're logged into a user, it will show you all group policies that are currently running and applied to that user or computer. You can access it by having command prompt open, type rsop.msc, and that will bring this up. And you might notice that it looks just like our group policy management editor with the same sections and stuff. Unfortunately, once these were expanded, they did not contain the same items. I went into Windows settings and just like I had done in the editor, but there was nothing for shortcuts and whatnot. So through RSOP, I was not able to verify that the group policy was applied, but because, once I updated the group policy, created the shortcut, I knew that it was working. Let's see, and then next, I just, had to run the scenario of what if I had to update a user's password. Let's say it was compromised, or maybe they just, forgot it. So I went back into the Active Directory users and computers that I had accessed earlier to create the accounts, and then it was fairly simple. You just you came over here and you right-click on the user that you want to change the password of. In this case, I think it was Bruce Banner. So I just right-clicked on it, and there was an option right in the drop-down menu for reset password. Brings up this little window here. You can type in new password, you confirm it, and then again you can give the user the option to change it on their next login. And you just hit OK, and it took effect. And yep, that is, I think, all that was required. Let's see, went over adding people, editing them, group policies, and reset passwords. So, yep,